Look, staying healthy isn't easy. Watching your diet, hitting the gym, avoiding stress. But a good night's rest helps boost your overall health and wellness. And it couldn't be easier. The new Sleep Number 360 Smart Bed is the only bed that effortlessly adjusts and responds to both of you. The result? You wake up ready for anything. Proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. And now, the new Queen Sleep Number 360 P5 Smart Bed is only $17.99. Save $600. Only for a limited time. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.
When I was 22, I got the diagnosis of ADHD. It's like your brain is a TV screen, but someone else has the remote and they're flicking through channels all the time.
Content warning. This podcast contains discussions of sexual assault which some listeners might find upsetting. My name is Halina Rafai and this is the A Sonic Hug podcast. Over the coming months and episodes, you will hear the voices of people from different walks of life who deal, experience and battle mental health issues. I spoke to Deni for this podcast on her diagnosis with ADHD and the lead up to it. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, ADHD, is a condition that affects people's behaviour. I have known Deni for a couple of years now because of the music circuit, and she's always come across as talented, driven and a confident young woman. At only 23 years old, I am in awe of what she has achieved in terms of my view from afar. This is another conversation where someone's story further highlights that we never fully know the personal struggles they are experiencing. This is Deni's story.
My name's Deni Smith and I am from Fife originally, but I live in Glasgow. I'm a musician, a singer-songwriter. Since I was pretty young, I've been quite an anxious person. I'm quite a perfectionist and yeah, it's always kind of taken over my life. And then not until last year, when I was 22, I got the diagnosis of ADHD, which kind of linked in with everything that I had been experiencing all my life, really. I don't know, it was quite bizarre to get that diagnosis after so long of actually experiencing the symptoms, but it was quite a shock being in education as well. Like, my degree's in education and I did tons of placements in primary schools, and you'll get taught that there's quite a few kids in your class that have ADHD, but they're all very hyperactive, whereas my mind's hyperactive, but I'm not physically hyperactive. So I just kind of found it a bit bizarre. It was like, I never would have thought that that's what I had. But then at the same time, it kind of seemed like I should have already known that that's what it was. It's kind of helped me to learn more about where those other mental health experiences have come from. It definitely contributes to anxiety and depression. I've kind of spent the past year trying to learn about it and develop processes and systems in my life that are going to help me through it and get me to think more positively on a day-to-day basis, but it's definitely still very difficult. With ADHD, or at least my experience of it, it does kind of take over all aspects of my life in a way, which obviously before I didn't really realise that that's what it was, but I'm a huge overthinker and I can't really seem to turn my brain off in any sense of the way. I've never been able to relax. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I also struggle with sleep quite a lot. But I heard a description of it once in my many times researching it on YouTube and the likes, that it's like your brain is a TV screen, but someone else has the remote and they're flicking through channels all the time. And that's probably the best sort of, visualization of it for me. It's it's very hard to concentrate on one thing. And it kind of takes over my work life and my free time as well. I've always kind of been a bit addicted to filling my time with lots of things so that I don't have the time to just sit and be still, because I can't really do that. With females in particular, it tends to be that you're not as physically erratic, or as, it's definitely a mental thing in my experience. But I find it really hard to slow my brain down and just take a minute to myself. I don't actually know if I've ever been able to feel relaxed. In my experience, I've always been quite a try-hard. I have always pushed myself to do well in everything that I do. I don't know where that comes from. I think partly it could come from my childhood experiences and things of my parents being quite, I wouldn't say pushy, but they like me to do well. I think growing up, I've always really struggled with that battle in my head of like never being good enough. And especially with ADHD, I'm not really predisposed to be good at education. I would consider myself now that I've got a bit better self-esteem, I would consider myself to be quite an intelligent person. I got all A's in my higher exams. I got a first. I've just graduated with a first from university, but it's torturing to go through all of that. And I can't fail. I've never been able to fail. But the thing is I know that that's not a big deal to fail. I know it's not a bad thing to not do well. But I think the pressure that I put on myself because of my ADHD is definitely the hardest thing and the worst thing that I've struggled with throughout, my life, really. And I still, now that I know that ADHD is what I have and I have been diagnosed, it's still impossible for me to get rid of that. I am trying to get better, but it's definitely like a never-ending battle of the pressure versus me not really being in a situation that works for me and works for the way that my brain works. It's more so in everyday life that I think it kind of stunts me, the pressure that I put on myself, because I'll put pressure on myself to wake up at a certain time and then to be in the shower by a certain time, and then if I don't do that, I'm kind of instantly setting myself up to have a bad day, because I'm already I've not done the thing that I wanted to do, and I've not given myself enough time in the morning and all of this thing. But like, if I didn't put the pressure on myself, it wouldn't be an issue, and I don't think I would struggle at all to get out of bed at 6 in the morning or whenever I want to get up. But yeah, I punish myself for everything. I also had to lose a lot of weight last year because I got diagnosed with PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome, at the same time as getting diagnosed with ADHD. So that was a bit of a whirlwind, and not told by the doctor, but encouraged to lose weight because it would improve my symptoms, because I was getting a lot of chronic pain and different things like that, and terribly painful periods, which is still going on now. But yeah, I put a lot of pressure on myself around that time. I couldn't eat until 8 a.m. and then I could only eat up until 6 p.m. because I had to try and fast slightly. I've always eaten so healthily. I'm, vegan 90% of the time, 99% of the time, and I've always eaten whole foods. I've always cooked at home, and I can't understand sometimes how I'm not losing weight when I don't eat that much. I eat very healthily, and I've got friends around me that are stick thin and eat tons of fatty foods and everything like that. And I think I put pressure on myself in that way, because it's like, oh, well, something must be wrong with me. I mustn't be doing this right. Like, even though I feel like at times I can avoid eating because I'm trying to get to a certain weight and a certain goal, it's all these things. It's constant. The pressure I put on myself is constant with near enough everything that I do. I can't just like let it go. Education has definitely been one of the hardest things, I think, that I've struggled with throughout all of this. I guess from as young as I can remember, I think I've always put so much pressure on myself that nothing I could ever do would be good enough. I think I've always kind of looked a lot for praise in relationships with all of my friends, family, teachers and things. I've always kind of needed external motivation and external praise. I've never really been able to give it to myself. I can't really root that back to a particular experience in a way, but I think growing up I definitely did struggle with relationships with my mum in particular, and my dad I suppose too, but particularly my mum. We had a bit of a troublesome relationship as I was growing up, and she was a great mum in so many ways, but she had her own battles with mental health, and she would sometimes take that out on me. And I think I've ingrained a lot of that, but also I think it's kind of just partly genetic. I've never been able to talk myself up, and I think I actually do show off. I'm quite a show off when I'm in front of people, but I think it's all coming from a place of insecurity a lot of the time. I've always kind of been the first person to say that I'm doing X, Y, and Z and isn't that great, to kind of try and make myself feel worthy, but in a sense it kind of just makes me feel worse. And it's difficult with relationships with friends, and especially in romantic relationships. I think I need a lot of reassurance a lot of the time, and I have started to see that getting better. I live alone now, and I actually think that that's been quite a big turnaround for me, just having time to actually force myself to sit by myself and try to think positively and try to really reflect and think things through and give myself the boost that I need. But it's definitely something that comes and goes. It's been ongoing since I was very, very young, I think. I just have always been quite down on myself, and I don't really know why. My mum and I have had like periods of when we've been great and then periods when we've just not been. And it's been so turbulent that I do think that I've kind of been a bit of a serial monogamist. I've always been in relationships, and I think it is that craving for stability. I think I'm slowly getting over that, and I am starting to really have a great relationship with my mum. And it's maybe not the typical mother-daughter relationship, but I don't really think that anybody has a typical mother-daughter relationship. I've got a lovely little brother as well who, is just the light of my life, and it's been really great to actually start to spend a little bit more time with them and to call them a couple times a week now. Whereas, when I was 15, 16, I moved out of my mum's house and in with my dad, and we didn't really speak for a while properly at all. It's good to have her back in my life, but I think there was definitely a period where things that happened did really, really affect me, and I think it continues to affect me, but not so much as it did maybe even just a couple of years ago. But I do think that, there's always that craving for something that's going to last and something that's going to be there. I used to get very serious very fast and joke about the whole marriage scenarios and things, and I look back on that now and I just find it completely embarrassing because I was so young and I have my life to live first as well. But yeah, I think definitely my experiences throughout childhood definitely have affected that. I had a very, very difficult start to university. I had an awful experience with, sexual assault, which was very difficult. And overcoming that was also quite difficult because with my experience of ADHD, I think that I'm quite good at either completely blocking something out or letting it completely consume me. And I kind of was in this conflicting behaviour of pretending nothing had happened and that I was completely okay, and then being completely panic stricken all the time and going through intense panic attacks and anxiety and unable to sleep, unable to eat, unable to leave my room. And then I'd be okay again for a couple of weeks. It took me a long time to work through that. I think that's probably one of the most vulnerable times I've felt. And then throughout my sort of early teen years as well with my mum, definitely a vulnerable time for me. I think there's always been times where I've felt vulnerable, but I'm starting to actually learn to like the feeling of vulnerability because I think that it's an important process to be able to grow, rather than to push it away and try to fill my time with things so that I can forget about, things that make me feel uncomfortable. I think one of the best ways that I've found for processing things that have happened in my life has been, written down reflection. And I think it's a really hard thing to keep up and to get into the routine of. And I did for a long time, try to journal every day. And I think that definitely really helped, but I wouldn't say that I've ever felt as though I have processed everything that's gone on. There's definitely been things, especially in my childhood and my like early teenage years with my mum, I think I've completely blocked out and I can't really remember. Um, I I do get so anxious at times. I get really bad panic attacks and anxiety attacks to the point where I do just black out, and like, I'll maybe be with my partner or something when it starts happening, and then it turns out that I've actually like maybe said some things that maybe weren't particularly kind, and when I'm then told about that afterwards, I get a bit shocked, and I think that could only I don't really understand where all of the anxiety comes from, but I think it could only be from the weight that I've got on my shoulders a lot of the time, because maybe I haven't completely processed things and worked through them. But it is difficult to find the time to do that, or the stillness to do that. I've tried to meditate, I've tried to, you know, practice all of the things that people recommend to you, but meditation to me is just completely frustrating because I cannot stop my mind from wandering. I can't just focus on my breath a lot of the time. I have to be in the right mindset to do it, and that only comes about very rarely, I'd say, where I can have the right sort of mindset to sit and just actually, think about nothing so that I can actually move forward. I don't know, I wouldn't say that I've completely not processed things, because I think I have, but just maybe not as deeply as I feel I could. And I don't really know how to work through that when you've got ADHD, because thinking about one thing for a long period of time is hard anyway. But when it's something that's difficult to actually think about, it's quite hard to get round to doing it. The diagnosis process was quite bizarre in a way, because I'd been in and out of, like free NHS counselling and stuff for a while, off the back of everything that kind of happened in my like teenage years and early university and stuff like that. And I kept going back to the doctors because my anxiety was just getting so bad at times that it was too much to handle. And I've never really felt so low that I couldn't go on, but I knew that it wasn't a way that I wanted to live. So I've always been going, and then finally I had a really kind doctor for a while at my last GP practice, and she referred me to psychiatry. Not really knowing what it could be, or if there was anything at play there at all. But yeah, I had an hour-long session with a psychiatrist, and he just kind of asked me questions about my childhood and asked me about different things. Asked me about drug taking and if I'd taken drugs, and if so, how I would fare with certain drugs, things like that. It was kind of a crazy experience. And then he handed me a sort of flyer that I had to fill out with multiple choice questions, which I completed on the train down to London and sent them back to him. And he confirmed that he thought I had ADHD, and started talking about medication and things. In so many ways, it was kind of, duh, of course, that's what it is. I should have known type thing. But then at the same time, it was such a shock because no one had ever actually said that to me before, and no one had ever really picked up on the fact I'm a really bubbly person, but I can be quite intense. And no one had ever really pointed out or made fun of the fact that I genuinely just talk all the time since I was in high school. I've never thought I was normal. I've always thought that there was something up there, but I just kind of thought that it was off the back of experiences that I'd had, that I was maybe just the way that I am. But yeah, getting the diagnosis was in ways comforting, but then at the same time, like, I am such a perfectionist and I put pressure on myself, and it just kind of became this new mountain that I had to climb. And like, maybe not so much getting the diagnosis, but being given medication was a whole new journey in itself. And I've never really liked to have to medicate for anything. I don't like to take painkillers. I'm quite a naturalist in that sense. I'll take vitamins, but being given medication for something that unbeknowingly was quite a hard thing to deal with. And for that reason, like the psychiatrist told me that I only had to take it as and when I felt I needed it. So I took it throughout my exams and my assignments for university, but I haven't felt like I needed it since then too much. The medication I was prescribed is called lisdexamfetamine, which I think is the UK's version of Adderall, which is quite well known across the world now. And taking it to begin with, I took it one time. The way that they kind of adapt it into your system is they'll give you a prescription of 20 milligrams for a week, and then 30 milligrams, and so on until you reach 50 milligrams. I took 20 milligrams, and I don't know why I took it at 6 p.m. in the evening, because clearly I wasn't thinking, and was up all night because just could not, there was no way. It's a focus drug at the end of the day. It's supposed to help you focus with things, and believe me, I was focused, but I had nothing to focus on because I genuinely had nothing to do. I had no assignments to be done. I think I ended up just like organizing my hard drive or something on my computer until about 4 a.m. So yeah, I think it was quite surprising how much it actually did affect me in a way. And I can't, I think to begin with, I did really like it and I found it really beneficial. But there's such a huge come down off of taking it that if you don't take it every day, and say you've been taking it for a week to gear up for handing in an assignment or something, and because it really does help you focus. It's been an incredible help in that sense, but it's not something that I would like to take every day, because I think my sort of erratic nature is kind of part of my personality, and I don't dislike that about myself. I think me being a bit hyper and being a bit over the top is just who I am, and yeah, I've maybe lost friends and maybe relationships haven't gone as far as they could, because I do think that other people maybe find it quite annoying. But I find that I've had to come to terms with that over the years, and I think being diagnosed with ADHD helped me to get to a stage where I actually just quite like myself as I am, and taking the medication, it doesn't feel, I don't feel like myself. I feel like it completely shuts that part of my personality off. And yeah, it's good in certain situations, but now that I am working in a job that I do enjoy with people I enjoy, and I'm not sitting staring at a blank screen trying to write a university essay, I don't think that it's necessary as much. I've got understanding colleagues who I can talk to them when I'm having a bad day of it and I'm not managing to focus, and I'll keep working, but I'm maybe not going to get as much done as I normally would. I don't think medicating is the way to go forward. I think it's something that, yeah, if you've got a certain situation that you need to be prepared for or something like that, then go for it. But I've actually found it quite a difficult thing to get used to, and it's not something I even want to get used to so much, I don't think. I think I'd rather just be me and use it as a tool as and when it's necessary. But no, I don't want to take it every day. I find it hard to define how I feel at the moment, because my mood goes up and down so regularly, and the past couple of weeks I've actually been feeling pretty good. I had a great week this week. My partner and I were staying together throughout all of lockdown, and I've got my own little flat now, and I've kind of just been trying to settle in here, and we've been trying to spend nights apart. And I didn't think I would be good at that. I didn't think I would be able to do it after spending so long with them. And I think actually having the time to myself, I've had actually quite a positive week, and I genuinely have been I've actually really enjoyed time and space to myself. And I can't say if that's maybe just been the circumstances of this particular week. Like things have been going well with work and different things, but I've never really spent time alone. I've always had flatmates, I've always had a partner, I've always had friends, and I've always had things to occupy my time. And lockdown's been really difficult for that. It's been, it's completely stripped my social life, which is where I get most of my energy from. And yeah, I think I'm okay now. I couldn't say that I'm great, because I think there's been a lot of things that have changed over this lockdown time for me, and I'm kind of going through a bit of an identity shift and maybe realising that I'm not as sociable a person as I think I am, but I think that's also just because the opportunities haven't been there for me to do things like that. Because I think the thing that I've really needed all of this time is a bit of solitude and my own space that I can set up my own systems and really work on a routine, because I think that routine and things is the way that I thrive, and I don't have any external things to kind of change that for me right now. I don't have the pub to go to because I've been shielding with my partner who's high risk, and I'm not going to the pub, I'm not going to see friends. There's nothing that can really knock me off guard with my routine. And yeah, I feel like I'm moving forward in a positive direction, but I'm definitely not where I want to be yet. I did have good systems in place when I was younger. I had a really great guidance teacher, and from studying and stuff at university, I've kind of become aware of the fact that having one solid, factor in your life is really quite grounding. However, it's not the only thing that you need. I wish I'd been diagnosed with ADHD at a younger age, because I think I would have definitely learnt ways of coping with things and ways of giving myself a break more often than, it's now so deeply ingrained in my mind that it's really difficult to move past. I do wish that, I've never known my parents together, and to be honest, I don't think that they were very suited to each other. Well, not now. They're two completely different people, and I would never have wanted them to be together, but at a certain point their communication dipped, and I would have liked for them to have continued to be friends throughout my life, because that's always been really tricky. The two sides of my family just do not get on, and me being the overthinker that I am, I worry about the future for when I do get married or have kids or have my graduation, if that even happens with this whole COVID pandemic. But I worry about them being in the same room together, because I know that it's difficult for both of them. And I think, I wish that had been more of an institution when I was younger, so that I wasn't constantly, they're both so different that I'm constantly kind of shifting elements of my personality, and I found that to be quite a thing that I constantly come back to when I'm reflecting on things, is that I really struggled to figure out who I was until very recently. Communication as well, I think I wish that everybody just communicated more, because I think communication is one of the most important things in all relationships and all aspects of life. And I don't think there was a lot of that when I was younger, and I am starting to get a lot better at that now, because I think it's so important. I wish everybody around me could maybe give me more of a break when I was younger, because I think that's why I can't give myself a break now. If I could go back and speak to my younger self now, I just would want to give her a hug and tell her that everything is going to be okay, and actually to tell her that she is a boss ass bitch, because you don't need anyone else to tell yourself that. So actually internalize the things that you're telling other people about yourself and really believe them, and really, just, you can pick yourself up. You don't need anyone else to do it for you, because you have done it before and you will continue to do it. And, I wish I'd given myself I wish I could give her the positive energy that I have now with looking at the experiences that I've been through, not to dwell on things, and just, keep your chin up, because you are going to do amazing things.
Remember more, improve your focus, and multitask better. Hum is a brain sharpener that helps you do all three. Hum's wearable boosts your working memory and will be available in late 2021. Sign up to be notified when Hum launches and to learn more about the science behind Hum at thinkhum.com. That's thinkhum.com. Hum is designed for healthy adults and should not be used if you're pregnant, have cognitive impairment, implanted devices, or a history of seizures. The Hum patch is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. To learn more, go to thinkhum.com.
Look, staying healthy isn't easy. Watching your diet, hitting the gym, avoiding stress. But But a good night's rest helps boost your overall health and wellness. And it couldn't be easier. The new Sleep Number 360 Smart Bed is the only bed that effortlessly adjusts and responds to both of you. The result? You wake up ready for anything. Proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. And now, the new Queen Sleep Number 360 P5 Smart Bed is only $17.99. Save $600. Only for a limited time. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.
That was Deni's story. Deni contacted me after hearing my personal story, which kicked off this podcast. We have a weird and bittersweet number of things in common with our lives, despite the age differences, and it's one of those confirmations that people speaking out about difficulties creates a positive domino effect. I have very little knowledge when it comes to ADHD. Deni mentions that her opinions also revolved around young children and the physical hyperactive stereotype, which I'm sure many of us think of. Shifting this to the mental impact is a real eye-opener for me. When she describes it as your brain being a TV and someone being in control of the remote, makes it instantly understandable. The sympathy I have when it comes to the struggles with this are monumental. It's not just been about her ADHD diagnosis, however. The relationship struggles with her mother in particular, the polycystic ovary syndrome diagnosis, the sexual assault at university have all been one mountain to climb after another. It feels when one aspect is hit and she has semi-processed it, another has taken her back to the beginning. One of the things I can relate to with this, and something which Deni said to me off air, is that you accept the cards you are dealt with. You can either give up or you can say to yourself, how do I play this next? She talks throughout about the pressures she places on herself, and this has become a common theme in this series. She struggled with the battles in her head about not being good enough. But interestingly, the mention, that diagnosis of ADHD and the stigma she imposed on herself of someone that was not supposed to be good in education. This didn't stop her, and her achievements have been notable. Where do we get that stigma from? Why do we associate ADHD with negativity when it comes to goals and achievements? And this is the continued stigmatisation of people's abilities when it comes to mental health. Her early relationship struggles have impacted her long-term, as she describes the want for something safe long-term and the need for commitment. I guess if we have been deprived of this at a young age, then from personal experience we can go down paths of extremes. We either want all or nothing, when at the end of the day all we need is balance. Deni mentions about never thinking that she was normal. What is normality? Normal is a dangerous word at times, and no two people are the same. Neither are their outlooks, dreams and hopes in life. And as for mental health difficulties, if anything, they are now something that could be argued as normal. Her discussions around medication are also notable. It's important to always discuss this with your GP, but as humans, we also crave that curiosity of what people's experiences are with things, and it's vital that people continue to talk about that. Deni has received free counselling from the NHS, and again, whilst it's important to talk about your mental health struggles, everyone should have access to professional services like these. Deni simply wanted to have better communication, an earlier diagnosis, and to be given a break. I do wonder how things would be now without her guidance teacher at school and the support she received. Deni is a strong, vibrant, intelligent young woman. She's a tour de force, and all her barriers have turned into her steps up to another level of achievement. And as she says, try to fully internalise the kind things you tell others. If you have experienced or experiencing anything described in this episode, you will find support information in the text with this podcast. A Sonic Hug podcast is recorded, produced and edited by me, Halina Rafai. We are also part of Scotland's podcasting network, The Big Light. Until next time, deep breaths.
Look, staying healthy isn't easy. Watching your diet, hitting the gym, avoiding stress. But a good night's rest helps boost your overall health and wellness. And it couldn't be easier. The new Sleep Number 360 Smart Bed is the only bed that effortlessly adjusts and responds to both of you. The result? You wake up ready for anything. Proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. And now, the new Queen Sleep Number 360 P5 Smart Bed is only $17.99. Save $600. Only for a limited time. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.